Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Today's guest is Mikael Hollsten, the founder of Restless Industries, Aldrig Vila, and PXL. Mikael is a personal trainer, entrepreneur, influencer, streamer, you name it. He has also been the Gladiator Prime on Swedish TV and the coach of the famous TV show Biggest Loser. Get ready to learn how he started Restless Industries, why he thinks he probably has ADD, how it was like getting fired from Biggest Loser, if he considers himself an influencer, why he founded an energy drink in a very competitive market, and much more. Mikael Hollsten, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good.
Keeping busy?
Yeah, a bit sore throat. I've been doing some live streaming on Twitch where we play video games and stuff, and I get so excited, so I start screaming. It's not out of rage, but more like excitement. So I'm actually like, you probably hear it. I probably sound a bit sick, but it's from screaming too much.
I see.
Yeah.
You are a gaming enthusiast, if you want to tell it like that. And if someone looks at you, I don't think that's the first thing that comes to mind. You are personal trainer. You are having a great physique.
Mm-hmm.
So how come that you're into gaming?
When I was younger, we didn't have any video games. Like, I didn't own a computer. I didn't own like an NES or a SNES or a Commodore or something, anything like that. It really took a while for me to finally get my hands on this. We weren't very rich as a family, and these things, even by then, were like very expensive. So I was so jealous at everyone playing video games and having video games. I started like drawing video games, and I started drawing like Super Mario levels and stuff like that. So when I finally got it, I anticipated the moment so much, so it was such a joy to get it. And I've been hooked like ever since, because I'm kind of an introvert. Like, even though doing like TV shows and stuff, I really, really like enjoy spending time by myself and just like deep diving into video games. And I really like the creative part of it, to participate in a story, to act in a story instead of just like observing it like in a movie. So, and I've always been fond of drawing and animating and stuff like that. So seeing it all come to life and controlling the characters, it was just, it was fantastic. And it's never left me. Like, it's become one of those things, like when I was younger and, you know, you started getting interested in girls and stuff like that. It was kind of a thing that back then that you had to be ashamed of, like, or at least keep on the down low, because it wasn't something that was socially accepted. But then as time moved on, like, I remember like Snoop Dogg and everyone, they started to like install PlayStation 2s in the headrest of the cars. So it kind of got accepted by then. So for me, I have no problem like proclaiming that I'm a gamer. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a gamer, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm really proud of what gaming is, or at least was. It's not moving in a good direction. But so for me, I've had a little bit of an upper hand because, as you say, I have a more trained physique. But then people realize, oh, he's a nerd, like he's a geek. That's kind of cool. But nowadays, that's not uncommon. Like, today, gamers and influencers have kind of like melded together. Like, today, an influencer is supposed to know gaming. Like, you're supposed to be active on Twitch, or you're supposed to have a YouTube live stream, or you're supposed to, like, the memes and everything, they kind of like blend together, and to stay on top, you need to keep track of it all, including gaming.
Do you see yourself as an influencer?
Well, it depends. Like, I get a feeling that people don't even know how to define it. And when people don't know how to define what an influencer is, it depends on the tone of voice. Are you an influencer, or are you an influencer? It depends on how they ask. Like, if they ask like, oh, are you one of those influencers? That means that they're sick and tired of some girl or guy holding a shampoo bottle or a neck massage pillow or promoting a supplement or something like that. It's a negative connotation. But for me, like, if you're an influencer, you're supposed to influence people, but the word itself doesn't have a positive or negative connotation. Like you just influence people. Like, here's what I do. And then you maybe inspire people to do that. So I don't know. Like I've never been strategic in the way I do things. Like I'm never like, should I upload this? Should I upload that? Should I upload it now or later? And that's been to a detriment for me. That's been a negative thing for me to not treat it more professionally. Like, I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Like, some people will probably call me an influencer, but that's probably just because they're writing a story and they want to put some sort of label on me. And some say I'm just a personal trainer. Some say I'm a celebrity trainer. Some say I'm a TV coach trainer, so.
Yeah, you have for sure done many things, and we will talk about most of them. So
yeah.
You have been on the TV show Gladiator in Sweden, which is in US is American Gladiators. You have several companies. You have or are a personal trainer. You have been a coach at Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
But if we go back, you started a blog in 2010. I guess that's where your career kind of took off, right?
Yeah, this current life I'm living started then. Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you start the blog Aldrig Vila?
I recently moved down to Stockholm from, I was born in, it's a place called Östersund, which is like a mid to northern part of Sweden. So I had recently moved down to Stockholm, and I was really afraid of like living in the big city. I was, as I said, like I'm an introvert. So the whole pulse of the city and the crowd, I wasn't very used to. But I moved down there because it was like the only way at the time to get my personal training career going, because it was still underdeveloped up north. Like, people was like, I'm going to pay someone to train me. It hadn't really gotten to the point where it is today, where it's so accepted, where it's so established. So I moved down there and I started training, and I also started competing in fitness. So as I was training to get in shape for this fitness competition, I started training a lot, and I worked a lot. Like I had a very big clientele. Like I had lots of clients. So my days were like, I train in the morning, like I walk to work, which is almost an hour walk. And then I train maybe like 4 clients. And then I worked out myself. And then I trained maybe 2 clients. And then I worked out myself. And it was like strength training. And then I did like athletics training. And then I walked home. So it was always like 2 hours of walking. And it was like maybe 2.5, 3 hours of training. And then I had from anywhere from between like 7 to 10 clients a day. So as I was walking home with a colleague of mine, by then I've always been opinionated. Like I always talked a lot. I always talk a lot. And it's because like, I really want to like, I think a lot and I can't shut my brain off. So I need to let some of that out. And the best way to do that is hopefully get someone who can throw it back at you. So you keep trying like to throw ideas out there and see if it sticks, or am I insane, or is this a good idea, or is this a bad idea, or am I stupid, whatever. And as I said, I've been very opinionated, and even by then I had strong opinions on how other personal trainers behaved and how people were considering or thinking about training and supplementation and diets and stuff like that. So being that type of person, every single time we sat in the lunchroom, I was always debating, talking. I wasn't like fighting people, but it was just like, don't you find it weird and stuff like that? And I blah, blah, blah. So as we were walking home, she said, you should really start a blog and just write all this stuff down. I think because she said, like, you need to reach more people, because I think she was kind of sick of listening to me. So she wanted like giving me another place to vent. So, and then we jokingly were like naming the blog. So we were saying like a title, and then we finished it off with what was at the time a domain name, which was .blog.se. So we were saying all kinds of stuff like trainhard.blog.se, and we're just joking around. And then because they were always like beating me up about never resting, like I was always there Saturday, Sunday, Monday to Sunday, and I was always training or working. So I jokingly said Aldrig Vila, which means never rest.blog.se. And she was like, yeah, that's actually good. And she went home. We lived pretty close to each other. So we talked all the way almost home. And as soon as I got up, I just went to .blog.sc and I just registered the domain. And I put all these thoughts about training into this blog. And then it like started to take off pretty instantly. I don't quite remember how long it took before it like grew into where I was starting to get maybe like recognized in the industry and stuff like that. But that was definitely the start.
And now you have, I guess it worked like an umbrella company, the Restless Industries.
Well, kind of. I never turned Aldrig Vila into well, it's like a limited company is like one of the translations. So it's like an LTD. Aldrig Vila was always like, this kind of goes into who I am as a person because I'm not professional. I don't plan. I don't want to sit with papers. I don't want to admin. I don't want to sit with Excel documents. I don't want to go like, okay, the data is showing this. I've always moved with intuition. And that's been a huge negative side of my business. But at times it's also been a blessing. But it's the thing I regret the most. But for example, I never started a limited company. So initially, I had Aldrig Vila, and it was just like on me. The bills and everything was paid by me, and the checks and the way I charged people or the business, it was just like for me, which is not a good way of doing things because of many reasons. But my point is that this went on for maybe like 2.5 years. I did this, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like people could tell me, well, if you do it like this, and if you had a limited company, like if you had that business structure instead, you'd get to keep more money. You'd use this system, and you'd tax less, and yada yada yada. And I heard it all, and I was like, yeah. And they could even some people took my numbers and they wrote down, you'd save this much, you'd have this much more money. It wasn't a shy amount. It was a big amount of money that I would be able to keep, like say. But still, I didn't do it. I could not find motivation enough to like sit down, care about this stuff. And it wasn't because I was busy. I just want to make that clear, because some people get this idea that I'm so busy all the time. More often than not, it's about me being not motivated to do that thing. And I'm always like, when it comes to training, I have no problem doing stuff that I hate doing, that's so hard, that hurts, that shows no result in several weeks, but I'm still able to just do it. And I guess this is when I realized, like, I don't really care about money. I don't care, like, even if it meant me doing like a little bit of extra work for like 5 days to sort all this stuff out, that was too much for me. Like the money wasn't important enough for me to do that little thing. So anyway, eventually I moved to the United States, and I moved to Los Angeles, and I had the AV Aldrig Vila, and people didn't, like, I had all the merch, the stuff, the t-shirts and stuff, and people didn't understand what's Aldrig Vila. And I realized, like, and back then I really enjoyed my stay in the US, and my visa was cleared and everything was just like good and working fine. So I was like, okay, if I want to go in international with this, or at least like make it work locally in the US, then maybe like, because by this time it was becoming very obvious for me that people started reacting that I didn't have this limited company. But since it wasn't like that, like I finally decided that, okay, I'm going to do that. And when we name it, then I'm going to name it something that's international. So then I turned it into Restless Industries. So instead of Aldrig Vila, so it would just it just worked. And from that, the brand Restless grew. And I kind of started putting a hold on Aldrig Vila. And I just went like, and during this time, I was like in such a business turmoil. Like I didn't really know, do I want to keep doing this? Then we're going to want to go harder, because during this time, Instagram and fitness influencers were really started to take off. We had like superstars like Bradley Martin and people like that were starting to do all these kinds of crazy stunts on Instagram, millions and millions of followers starting. And I mean, I was kind of the first from Sweden to, during this era, like I'm not the first Swede to move to Los Angeles and train. We've had several superstars doing that, but doing it like this and keeping myself afloat through a blog, through selling merch and supplements, and also starting my own private supplement and like branding it and creating it in pre-existing factories and stuff like that. Like kind of starting the private labeling to a private person officially. Ever since I started doing that, it kind of like really took off. Like we went from having like one pre-workout and then all of a sudden we had 10. And like when you looked at them, they had all the same ingredients. So you start realizing, okay, so the private labeling really starting to take off. So yeah, that's when I started Restless Industries. And since that's been my pretty much my only company, and then I have like brands underneath of that.
I see. Yeah, going back to what you said, that you don't like the more administrative tasks of the company, that's so interesting, because you have also said that discipline can be trained like a muscle. And you also said that for workouts and your training, that's no problem. Maybe it's have to do with motivation, that's not something that you are that interested in with the bureaucratic stuff of the company?
It's actually like the older I get, the more I realize that it's not something that I control. Because like even when I do things that I really enjoy doing or am fascinated about, like I'm trying to teach myself how to code and to program video games and stuff. So, and I'm really fascinated by that, but I'm also not a math guy. So it's kind of like numbers and new terms and stuff like that. It's kind of hard for me to like, okay, I get it right away. Like instead, I really have to learn it. And throughout my entire life, I've always like talked myself into good grades. Like my social intellect has always been good. Like I can imagine like being my teacher when I was growing up, they talked to me and they probably thought, well, he's kind of sharp when he talks, so obviously he should get a good grade. Like instead of looking at how am I actually performing in math, how am I actually performing? So I've always had an easy time with languages like English and French and stuff like that. But when it came to exams, I don't think not English exams. I've always had an easy time with English, but like French exams and grammar and French, I never did very well there, but I got great grades. And same like in social science and geography and math. Even though math is so structurally like created, like you either get it or you don't. Like it's either correct or not. I probably should have gotten like a C or D, and I got a B, like a B plus. So my point with that is like you can live on that through high school and what we call in Sweden gymnasium, like up until upper high school before you go to college and stuff like that, and university. You can survive like that, but then at a certain level, you're not going to be able to just like cram it in the final hour or just slip through the cracks. You're going to have a teacher that's going to look you in the eye and go like, do you get this or not? Because you need to get this or we're not letting you out into the workforce or whatever. So I always thought of myself like, hey, I got the hang of this. I can do this adult stuff, like this adult thing. Like whenever I got to a new job, I always like outperform in the beginning and then I just lost interest. So what I've come to realize, like I probably have like a pretty big dose of ADD as an adult, like adult ADD, because I have such a hard time just like keeping my mind to one subject, even though it's something really interesting. And it doesn't help that my business involves using social media. So I'm always like having my phone, which is like designed to almost produce ADD in you. Like, okay, this is going to make you think about this, to think about this, to think about this. Oh, forget about that. Think about this. Just keep you scrolling. That's a really, really bad thing for me. And it's kind of sad that the way I run my business and the way my business are able to thrive is for me to spend more time there, which for my mental state and like the issues I have with it, well, not mental state, but with ADD, it's not good to be so involved with your telephone and social media. So I think that's more the case, that I'm wrestling with that. Like I'm fighting with my ADD. And if I were able to like focus more, like I've tried medicating for it, but it doesn't make me feel good at all. Like I lose my appetite and I get nauseous and stuff like that. So that's actually something like I'm working with every day. I really need to like almost like look myself in the mirror and go like, Michael, like it's just another day being you, and you're going to have all these things that's going to pop up, and you need to like do everything in your power to shield yourself from distraction. So you need to put your phone away. You need to shut off notifications. You need to turn off all these extra softwares on your computer that might flare up, or notifications, stuff like that. So I think it's more like that. So for me, like the best thing I could have done back in the days, well, just to bring it back, like just being me was enough. Like almost as in school, being me was enough to make people think that, hey, you're really good. Like, here's a good grade. Here's a good grade. Man, he's so smart, blah, 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 blah. And just to clarify, I'm not smart. Like I just like to talk. So I practice talking a lot, like socializing a lot. I'm just excited about telling people about stuff. So I've trained myself into telling people why I'm excited. Like, what do I like about this thing? Which has helped me train my descriptive power. Like, and that in itself is such a powerful tool when you're a trainer, when you're a coach, to be able to explain things through feelings. Like if someone feels something and it's like trapped inside them, and then you're able to put words on it, and you're able to do metaphors. Like it's a, like if you're helping someone to squat and you're like, well, imagine, like, you know, the usual terms, like imagine like you pushing the ground away instead of standing up. And they're like, oh my God, I get it. Bam, 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 bam. You try to find like, how do I get through to this person? How do I explain this person? I can't use gym words because they don't get that. They're not in the industry. It was the same thing with my blog and everything. People were so glad that I put things into word for them. So I built up this trust that I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to be honest. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you I'm wrong. So since they had that view of me, that when I said like, hey, buy this thing that I made because it's really good, they felt like, well, he's never going to lie to us. So of course we're going to support him. So that helped me. I didn't have to advertise anything. I didn't have to, lie or anything. The only thing I need to focus on was wake up and be myself. So that's great. The problem is that you can do that as same as with school. When your business gets big enough and it kind of needs to keep growing, or it's going to fall on top of itself, even without shareholders and stuff like that, it just needs to keep growing. Otherwise, things are going to start to crumble and the issues are going to be too hard for you to handle on your own. So my problem was like, I wasn't taught, I didn't realize that I needed help. So I did everything myself, which meant if I saw an email that I didn't want to answer, then I didn't answer it. So for me, it would have been so good to just like recruit or have a partner with me that really loved digging into numbers, that really loved signing certificates and sending stuff in and just answering the phone and answering the email and just customer service. So I could focus on like being myself. But I kept pushing that off because there was no sign that I needed it. I was just like, the only thing you could have told me is that, hey, Michael, you're going to earn less money. And we've already been through that. That's not a motivating thing for me. So also through my ADD, you're going to have to push me really hard to frighten me. And then I'm going to turn into this ultra focus, which is going to last for maybe 6 hours, where I'm basically able to solve pretty much anything, but some things obviously not. And those things are usually what's required to make a company grow even stronger and even more steady. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what I was thinking before, like maybe it would be a good idea to outsource. But I mean, looking back, it's easy to say now, 12 years later, when you have all the experiences, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, you started talking there about coaching and your personal trainer, which of course has been a big thing for you. So first of all, how were you introduced to the fitness industry?
I was a basketball player up until I was 19, 20, but I was really skinny. And after a while, I realized that I don't think I have what it takes, and I'm not interested enough to push it hard enough. Like whenever I talk about these things, it's so obvious for me that I'm the same person in everything I do. Like I'm able to push it really hard in the beginning. Because like in basketball, like I played on a very high level. And then it's like, nah, it's not that fun. And it's not that important. Because like, as I said, like this is going to sound crazy, but the only thing that's really kept me really interested and glad is video games, like gaming, and the whole and everything about the fantasy, the science fiction, the nerdiness, and everything like that. That's the only really the true love that I have. That I'm still like beating myself up. Like, why didn't I work in this industry instead? Like, why didn't I take this step? But I mean, life is life. It just happens the way it happens. But so I played basketball and then I injured myself. And when I injured myself, I was like, I don't care enough to like work really hard to get back. But during this time, I was in the gym and an old basketball friend of mine had also started training. So I saw him and we used to have the same physique. Like I was 6'2", and I think I was maybe 175 pounds. Like I was really skinny, like really skinny. And so was he. Like I always saw us as having the same physique. But when I saw him this time, he was way bigger. Not bodybuilder, but he was like he had filled out. So I was like, holy shit, man. And he started, I've been going to the gym pretty steadily for whatever. And he was like the key for me because like since I saw myself in him, seeing him being able to do it was the best advertisement like I could see. It was like, if he can do it, then so can I. So we started training, and then all of a sudden he went to Stockholm and started coming back in the weekends. And I was like, oh, so what's up now? Like, yeah, I've started going to school for personal training, getting a personal training license. And by this time, like I was afraid of going to school. Like none of my parents have gone to university. And I was so afraid because I didn't understand how it worked. And also I didn't like really care enough to find out. But I was so afraid, like, how am I going to make money living in Sweden? And when you think about getting an education, you shouldn't ask yourself, like, how am I going to make money? Like, we kind of sorted that out here, but that wasn't clear to me. And I didn't have parents that went like, of course you should get yourself an education, because they weren't like, they didn't understand my interest. In fact, they didn't kind of understand me, if I'm being frank. So I started asking him, like, as soon as he said education, getting a license, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, why can't you just get it in the mail? Like, that's what was required for me at the time. Like, I would have to get like a 5-year education certificate in the mail in order for me to get the education. That's like how adverse I was for like rooting myself up for my cushy life in Östersund at the time. But then he said, like, yeah, it's only 2 months. And I was like, I can do that. Like, I can do two months. So, and it wasn't like, it was state sponsored. So you had to pay for it yourself. And it was kind of expensive, but I had the money by then because like I'd work as a salesman, selling newspapers. And as I've said, I'm good at talking. So it works very well with selling. So I'd earned quite a bit of money and I could see the money and I was like, yeah, I got enough to pay for all this. So that was it. Like the next time that education started, I was like traveling back and forth because my older brother lived in Stockholm at the time. So I just lived with him and started educating myself. Then I became a personal trainer and I moved down to Stockholm and I became like a pretty well hired personal trainer. I also started training celebrities, which at the time and still it kind of puts you like on the map. People are like, oh, he's a celebrity trainer, which always been weird for me, but I get it. I get why. But if you look at the facts, it's really weird because celebrities aren't the best like looking people in the world. Like I train single moms and 50-year-old dads that would crush 99.9% of all the celebrities out there whenever they do their super bodies, you know? But yeah, so when I did that, that kind of like pushed me into the fitness industry and then came the blog and yeah.
This episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. Right now, they are offering course recordings on demand for only £199. Private equity in sport, sustainability in sport, or governance in women's sport, take your pick. As always, you get 10% off all courses with the code SPORTSMANAGEMENTPODCAST10. Click the link in the description below to see the complete course list. And then you got the gig with Channel 4 in Sweden to be a coach on the show Biggest Loser, which I think is globally known. It's a similar...
Oh, yeah, it's a global brand, yeah.
Yeah, why did you decide to jump on that and what did you learn from it?
At the time I was living in United States. I was living in Los Angeles, and I was doing Gladiators. So I traveled home during the recordings of Gladiators. As I was doing Gladiators, I also did this game show, which is really popular in Sweden. It's also popular in Europe, which is called Fångarna på fortet. And we recorded down in France, like La Rochelle. They have this prison island, like a prison fort, like in the middle of the sea. So you travel out there and there's cameras and you do all these competitions against each other and they record it. It's just for fun, but it's really cool for me because I grew up with it. So they asked me, do you want to do this? I said, yes. And I'm going to do it against another gladiator because I was doing Gladiators at the time, as I said. So I traveled there and I missed my flight. Well, I didn't miss my flight. I was traveling with Norwegian, and then they're not the best at keeping their schedule. So I got there really late. So I missed the introductory dinner. So production assistant picked me up and she said, like, well, you missed the dinner, so we're going to have to get you something to eat. So we traveled downtown in La Rochelle and I went into this store and I bought a bunch of stuff. During the drive there, we started talking and I asked her, like, what other shows are you doing? And she said she did Biggest Loser. And at the time, as I said, I've always been opinionated. I've always had opinions. So I started butchering the show. Like I was like, I hate that show. And this is why I hate it. You blah, 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 blah. And I said all this crazy stuff. And she was like, yeah, I can see how. I wasn't bashing it just to bash it. I was, as I said, I'm never just like, I'm not the guy to go, oh, well, that sucks. And then I leave the room. No, I want to engage. Like I want to explain. Like I would never say like, oh, that's shit. Well, if I think something's shit, for better or worse, I've been thinking about it, why it's shit. And you can debate whether or not that's a healthy thing to do, but I do it. So I don't ever want to be like a bigot that's just like, oh, fuck it. That's just horrible. You suck for listening to that music or liking that movie or whatever. Like, I really want to explain myself. So I do the show, everything goes well. I travel back home and then I get a phone call pretty much as soon as I get home. And it's from this girl, and she asks me, do you want to do Biggest Loser? And at the time I was known as the Gladiator. Like my gladiator name was Prime, and I was known as Prime in Sweden to the masses, because even though my blog was big before Gladiators, more people knew me as the Gladiator. Like way more people knew Mikael through the blog, but more people knew of Prime. But Prime never said anything. Like I never said anything on the TV show. Like you couldn't get to know me through that. So, and this is important because when I get the call, I'm so used to media people talking to me as I'm Prime. So when she asks me, do you want to do Biggest Loser? The only thing I could picture was they're going to invite me there as a gladiator. I'm going to stand there with no clothes on pretty much and just like train them. And I hate stuff like that. And I didn't identify with being this silent flexing dude. Like that's not the end game for me. Like once again, it paid good, but you're not going to get me to do it all the time, just focusing on money. In fact, the reason I did Gladiators was because I was fascinated. How do you do a show like this? This must be a great. So I was more interested in watching the production buses and the people with the cables and the lights and the sound and the cameras and all the green screen stuff we do and stuff like that. Like once again, the nerd in me came out. So after doing one season, I was like, this isn't fun anymore. But I saw the benefit it had to my brand because I could reach more people and it would generate more sales, which in turn gave me more freedom to do other things. So anyway, so I say no without asking her. I just said no. And then I talked to my wife and I say, yeah, there was Biggest Loser that called me and they asked if I want to do Biggest Loser. Now she saw me as Mikael. So when she realized that I'd said no, she was like, what? Why did you say no? And I'm like, well, they probably want me to go there as a gladiator. And she was like, I don't think so. You'd be a great coach. Like, you should talk to them again. I was like, she's probably right. Like, because I was so biased towards being seen as a gladiator. But luckily they called me again. And this time it was the real producer. And she's this powerful woman. Like she's really like straight on, assertive woman. And she was like, of course you're going to do Biggest Loser. Like, what are you talking about? Like that sort. And I was like, hey, and I really like that sort of attitude because of course for my ego, like someone saying, of course you should do Biggest Loser. That means like, of course we want you, yada, yada. Of course you're perfect for it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that feels really good. So I was like, okay, cool. Because back then I had this identity crisis because everyone saw me as Prime, but he was pretty much the opposite of me. Like never got to talk about anything other than working out while I had all these other ideas. And I saw in front of me like Biggest Loser would let me be Michael because obviously I wouldn't be Prime there. So I decided that I'm going to go for the casting for this job because even though they wanted me, they're still going to have to go through the casting and everything. So I said to myself, like, I'm going to apply for this job just to see if I, Michael, can get it. Like, I'm not going to kiss any ass. I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to do any sort of thing that I'm not comfortable doing. I'm just going to see, like, is Michael enough to get this job? And it was. So that's the way I got it. Like, I got it because, like, I felt a really strong motivation of getting it because I felt like I had some things that I wanted to get off my chest. Since I disliked the show, I also saw it as a channel. Can I defend this show? Can I do it in a way where I can stand for it? Yeah.
And you did that for a couple of years and did a great job. And then after a while, they decided to continue with one coach instead of two. It was you and another woman who was coach on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's at least that's what I've been told. But this is television. Like they could have said that just to make me calm down, you know, because like in TV, if you get replaced, they're used to people freaking out. Like, oh, you're replacing me for this. So maybe they're just like, in television, they're not honest. You know, it was like breaking up. It's not you, it's me. And when I asked, like, just tell me why I'm not getting the job. I'm an old dude. Like, I'm a father. Like, be honest with me. Like, this is supposed to be professional. So we never know. There might be another dude there. Like, I'm so far out of the loop right now that, like, once you're done, you're done. They close the door. It's no sugarcoating. It's like, well, see ya. And it's like, all right, cool. It was like, I was really sad. Like, I did 8 seasons. I loved it. I never once thought about the cameras there. I never watched the show. I just enjoyed the challenge of meeting completely random new people and seeing how fast I could get them to trust me and whether or not I was able to spot people being honest or dishonest with me and stuff like that. So it was just like a cool adventure for me. But I'm completely understand if I'm hard to work with. So I'm just like being honest. Like if they don't want to work with me no more, I kind of get it. I could probably list a couple of things about why I'm a pain to work with, you know?
Is that why you run your own companies?
I think so.
You don't want people telling you what to do?
I love people telling me what to do, but this is going to sound so rude. I just haven't found anyone to inspire me. But I think it's because I'm working in the wrong type of business. That doesn't mean that one business is smarter / better than anyone else, but it's just like it doesn't impress me. Maybe it should impress me. Like, for example, I follow a lot of trainers out there who are so smart theoretically, and they're fascinating to listen to. But if a person like that was telling me what to do, even though he's 100% right and 10 times as smart as me, I don't think the end result would motivate me. And I think like the ego in me then would think that, nah, he's not that good. Like he's not a good leader, whatever. But but the truth of the matter is that it's just not an interesting subject for me. But if, say, I worked at a more like creative space, like for example, like a video game developer or something, it would still be very important for me that the dude running the show was a visionary and really creative. So it's such a rude thing to say. It's such a weird thing to sit and talk about. But just to make it clear, I don't see myself as, I just have opinions. I just have like a certain flavor that I like. Like I like to play games like this, listen to music like this. And I'm not saying that, and therefore everyone should obviously like this. No. It's just like, I'm so honest about, I need all of those things to be true for me to be led or work with someone else. Like they really need to understand me. So the fault is all mine. I just want to be clear so that no one thinks that, yeah, I'm too smart to be led. No. It's just that I have all these other parameters that need to be checked, which is almost like mission impossible for anyone. And that's all my fault. Like, and I just need to emphasize this because since it's not how I see myself, it's not about me being better or more talented or stuff like that. Just I have all these things where I'm unable to focus. And so I need to have something that I really enjoy doing. And I have someone that thinks like I do. Or maybe I don't. Maybe it's someone would just come into my life and go like, hey, this is what you should do. Shut up, sit down and just do the work. And I'm like, yes, sir. And it'll be fine. But I haven't been there. And when I did Gladiators and when I did Biggest Loser, I worked for a producer. I worked for a company, and they told me like, you should do this. Now, luckily, I hate the script. So they threw the script out the window like the first day. I was like, just let me talk. And if it's bad, then let me know. And I'll just wing it, like improvise, because then it'll take less energy for me during the workday. Because if I need to pretend like I'm someone else, then maybe that's 30% energy spent on pretending and 70% energy spent on being like motivated, like really getting into it. So what you see of me on the screen is 100% Mikael. If I scream, it's because I'm excited. It's not because I'm trying to make a good scene. It's not like I'm trying to show off for the television. Like that's who I am. Like I just told you, I'm sore in my throat because I screamed out of excitement when I was streaming a video game.
Yeah. The Biggest Loser show is interesting also because it really emphasizes like overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
So what do you think that other people, I mean, these are for overweight and obese people, but people struggle with all kinds of things in life and in business. So what type of lessons do you think people can draw from that show that they can implement to their own lives?
People have probably heard it before and they're like, oh, like that. But it's the thing about the word discipline that we always bring up. It's a little magical box. And coaches and influencers and stuff, they talk about it in the wrong way. We're not advertising discipline well enough. So discipline it's something cool. It's good. It's supposed to be exclusive. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be because in order for you to change yourself and in order for you to overcome adversity is something like you're unable to overcome this issue. And this has put you in an adversity. Like it has put you in a situation where you like feel stuck. I keep doing this and I can't get over this hump and yada, yada, yada. So that means that your current self is unable to win this battle. So we need to train you into becoming someone else. We need to work on things to make you someone that you currently are not. And the only way to do that is to just realize that it's not a button press. I'm like, okay, I'm going to change into this. It's not a power up that you go and pick up, like, and then you change and then you're stronger and then you can move on, because it can be anything. But the word discipline is like, you have to work on something long term that you dislike short term for something that will benefit you long term. For me, it's always like, you have to compartmentalize. You have to really like shut down your the distance that you look, even mentally, or like when you're running on a treadmill or when you're training. If you think about the entire workout, every single repetition that you do, you're going to be like, oh, fuck, this single repetition is a drop in the ocean concerning my entire workout today. And my entire workout today is a drop in the ocean concerning the 3 months I'm apparently supposed to do this with my personal trainer or whatever. So the bigger you think, it's just going to feel too hard to succeed at. But I also realized that I'm saying something that people have heard before, like have small targets, like have small goals, like short-term goals. There is some truth into that. But I also feel like putting too many goals up also readies you to fail. Like, don't pepper your work that you're going to fail. You're going to forget stuff. You're going to underperform. So don't put too many like targets all over the place. Like, I'm going to run faster. I'm going to be stronger. I like to think of myself as a machine, like a robot, just doing the work. I just find that is so appealing to me when a person is able to like really out of their body, just go in, get into the work. Like you're working in a mine. You just go down there and you dig further down and you just get up when your shift is over and you go down and eventually you get through. Just like going into that sort of mind. And it's like, I'm going to read 1 chapter a day. I'm going to study language 30 minutes a day. And I'm just like, I'm not even going to cherish it. I'm just going to go into this robot mode because there's no way I'm not gonna become better in the end if I just keep doing it, because discipline and consistency is the key to progress, if you ask me. So when these people in Biggest Loser stop thinking about coming home, stop thinking about what they're going to do with their fame, stop thinking about all the things around and just focus on putting the one foot in front of the other and what they put in their mouth and get enough sleep. Like if you just like plan it out like that and you try to keep like a short sight of what you're doing all the time, I think that's the key. And it's always what's been best for me. Just like I did a lot of cold showers in my day, and just like that's the perfect metaphor for me, because why cold showers was so good for me is not because of any physiological effect or fat burning effect or energy effect or meditative effect. The fact of the matter is that engaging in cold showers is the easiest from start to finish you can do. That's going to be very taxing on your discipline and the shock to your body, because you're basically standing there in front of the water, and within half a second you can step into something that's really going to challenge you, and it's going to challenge you for a very short time, and then you're done. If you compare that to go out running, training, going to yoga, there's all this stuff. You need to pack your bag, you need to prepare, you need to do it. There are so many moments where you can divert and like make up an excuse or whatever. But when it comes to a shower, if you're showering anyway in the morning, you can just turn on the shower, turn the faucet all the way over to the coldest temperature, and you stand basically in front of the water falling in front of you, and you just step in. You just need to go like, I don't even care about this distance between my face and the water. I'm just going to go, fuck it. And then I'm just going to step in. And I think that's the kind of attitude you need to have with training. You just have to go, fuck it, and then turn off your system and just get there. And also, like, I realized, like, you've read this shit on motivational wallpapers and stuff like that all over Instagram. I understand it sounds so already told, but you need someone to talk you into this. You just go like, you're doing it again. You're doing it again. You're floating away. You're making excuses. You just got to be honest with yourself and just remind yourself, like, no excuse apart from like not being able to get out of bed is ever going to be big enough for you to not get up 30 minutes earlier and just go in for a walk. And if that's too hard, it's because you didn't prepare the night before. Like, you should have put your shoes by your bed. You should have put your clothes by your bed. Like, make everything just easier to do in the next morning and just get that system. But you need to accept that you're going to have to change yourself in order to overcome your current adversity, because your current self is not working. You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. And that's cool. And that's why that's why you should welcome the challenge, because the bigger the challenge, the bigger the change is going to be to you. And the bigger change you make, the less you're going to want to squander it. Like, if you make a big change to yourself, that's very, like, I do this, I talk about this in my talks. Like, I usually compare it to when you build a house of cards. When you only have 2 cards and you're trying to balance them together and they fall over, you're like, fuck. And you're like, I'll try again, I guess. Fuck. And then someone opens the door and goes, hey, do you want to go eat? We're going to McDonald's. And you're like, yeah, like, I'll go to McDonald's, because, like, who cares, right? But if you're at the 5th level of a card house and you're really focused, and you're really treasuring, like, appreciating the work you've done, and the door opens behind you, you're going to interrupt them. You're going to go, shut up. Like, and then he's going to say, do you want to? No, I don't want to, because it's so precious. Like, you don't want to leave this. You just go into McDonald's and just abandoning all these things. And the fact that it may fall over, it poses such a big threat to the accomplishment you've done, that you're like, no. And there's so much more strength in your commitment. You say, no, shut up, go. I'll talk to you later. Like, this is more important now. And I see training as the same. Like, if you get a couple of days in there, a week and a month, and you lose weight and you start like, fucking, I'm doing it, that's harder to quit from. And you should welcome that. Like, the longer you do it, it not only does it become easier, but you cherish it more. It becomes more valuable for you. So you're not going to abandon it as easy as you would do if you do like one workout and then you like wait 5 days and you do another workout. That's just a 2-card house. Like, you don't care about that.
That's a good analogy. Approaching the end here, is there something that I haven't asked you that you want to mention? This one. You're showing, for the one who listens, the PXL energy drink. Yeah, so that's interesting. Like, we are in a world with Red Bull, in Sweden, Nocco, you have Monster, you have like an ocean of energy drinks. So what made you think like, yeah, let's compete with these guys?
Yeah, so like my latest business venture is an energy drink called PXL. It's just like when I was doing supplements, I started to learn about nootropics, which is supplements for the brain to make you smarter and stuff. This was way back when this was not a thing, and I was living in the United States. And I wanted to bring this to Sweden. And then I got in touch with a company that did supplements, and they asked me like, can we do pre-workouts for you and stuff? And I'm like, I already had that sorted. But at this time, I went to the supermarket in the United States and I found the new Monster Ultra, like the white Monster, the first Monster Ultra they released. And I tried it and I was like, holy shit, is this sugar-free? And it was so delicious. Like if the flavor was amazing. Like, and I'm a flavor junkie. Like you need to blow my mind. You need to make something happen. Like I'm so critical to these things, especially sweets, like sugar tooth. But this was sugar-free, and it blew pretty much every sugar drink out of the water. And I realized, like, hey, I should take all these nootropics, and I should put them in an energy drink instead, target it towards gamers, and make it into a supplement that helps their hobby. So I started working on it, and back then, the code name for it was Spectre. I don't remember why. I think I remember why. I think my wife had a pair of shoes and like on the sole, it said Spectre. I'm like, hey, that's a cool name, like a Spectre. So I'm going to call it Spectre. But a meeting with my designer, we saw a movie trailer for a movie called Pixel. And I just realized gaming is pixels. So we just took away the vowels and made Pixel. So anyway, when I took it home to Sweden, we don't allow nootropics of any kind, a little bit more now than back then. So I had to take every single ingredient out of it, and I was left with just an ordinary energy drink. But at this time, I had already started like the process of developing flavors and products in the product line. So I was so like fascinated of the industry. Like I'm like, this is what I really want to do. Like this is really fun. I don't think I'm ready to stop this just because it doesn't have like anything angled towards what would help a gamer. Because I also asked myself, like, I don't care about that. I don't care about being smarter because I drink an energy drink. Like, I'm not going to drink an energy drink that makes me smarter, but tastes like shit, you know? So it kind of got put on ice. We had a huge production issues, people who we thought we could trust, but didn't trust. But about 5 months ago, I found my dude who likes working with numbers and admin and stuff. And he bought half of the company. So we're like 50-50 owners now of Pixel. We'll also have an art director who's also a part owner. So we decided to go through with it like a launch. And your question about it being a really crowded market, it really is. It really is. It's such a stupid thing to like to go out and fight in. But I'm looking at these shelves and I'm looking at these energy drinks and I'm tasting them. And I see like some of them have putting less and less caffeine in them, which kind of loses the point. Some flavors are downright horrendous. Most of them just put every single money into advertising and not into product development. And I've always been fascinated what drives a company. Is it the product developers or is it the marketing? Like I always think about the famous Steve Jobs interview where he talks about what pushes a company forward. Like, and it depends on what the company at the moment needs more, and they climb in the company ladder. So, and new companies always like rely on product development to solve the problems that the other company. So I kind of see us in that point now that we can't outmarket our competition. Like we can't advertise on the subway and everywhere, and we can't buy the biggest influencers, we can't sponsor the biggest gamers or whatever. The only thing we have is to make sure that whenever someone drink our product or experience our product, they need to love it. Like they need to really like it to keep giving us a chance until we release another product, and then survive on that until we give you another product, and then finally fight on even terms once hopefully our capital is there. So it's a really hard fight, but it's so cool because I've always been so invested in it. I don't drink coffee, but I'm in great need of caffeine to stay awake, or of course when I'm gaming, like to stay awake. So it feels like something that I really can represent. I have great knowledge. I have big knowledge in the nerd community and the gaming stuff, and it's my true passion. Like, so I feel like it's a fight. It's a fight I can take. Like, if you're a big company and you already have products and you say like, hey, energy drink seems pretty cool, we should do that. And then you hire a firm or you hire people to develop it for you, but you're not the founder. You know, you see the difference? Like you didn't have the idea. You didn't see it in front of you. Now, for me, I've always seen Pixel in front of me. Like, I always seen what we should do with the product. I always dreamed of how hard we're going to push the flavors and what kind of cool stuff we can do surrounding with the brand and what type of company we should be towards our customers. Like what kind of feeling should we bring to the market? Like, what kind of presence should we have? When people think about us, should they think corporate, or should they think they're pretty cool? Like, they have a podcast, they have a Twitch stream. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, and that dude is actually the founder. He's not a bot dude. He's not a sponsor dude. Like, if you ask me questions about the company, then I have all the answers. Like, I don't have to ask someone. And if I'm talking to a sales rep or like a sales team that's going to work for us, it doesn't matter what question they have. I'm going to be able to answer it because I'm the guy who had the idea. This is my baby. And I love being in that position. Like, I don't see myself as someone who's ever going to sit behind a desk and let someone treat my baby. Like, I want to be there. I want to talk about it, and I want to get people fired up because I get fired up when I talk about this thing. Like, well, whatever flavor we release, like we have 2 flavors right now. We have one red and we have one yellow. Whenever we release when we release these 2, we also produce 2 different tracks for them, songs. So if you search on the flavor name on Spotify, you find our songs. So we have 2 different songs. They also have 2 different mascots, that's not a big a deal. But I want to build a universe. Like, at the same time I'm doing this, I want to feed into my nerd, like my geek and the whole fantasy thing about it. And I want to do it really well. I don't want to do it like gimmicky, you know. If we do a mascot, he's supposed to be drawn by a really good comic book artist. And so we have a tiger and a fox. Like, one of them is called Rock and Rage and the other one is called Liquid Lightning. So our marketing is signing like, these are the power-ups. So, like, our slogan is power up as a verb, like you should power up, but it's also a noun as it's a power up. So it works both ways. And I love stuff like that. I love writing cool copies. That's always what I loved about Monster, because they're fucking around. Like, Vitamin Water was the same. Back in the United States, they had this copy with these really weird stories, like about stuff happening, and they downplay like the effect of the drink. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the company we are. Like, when we write a copy on our can, we're downplaying ourselves. Like, we're not saying that you're going to get superpowers of it. We're saying, like, wouldn't it be cool if you got superpowers from this drink? But don't worry, it's just an ordinary energy drink. This is not going to make you powerful or anything. Like, we like being the normal dude. So that has always been my dream. And I think that's how I always done business. Like, hey, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. This is what I think. Hey, like, because I've never been the best. I've always been number 2. Like, I've always been number 3. I've never been the best. But I think there's like it's a nice place to be, because I feel like with this product and this industry, it's like, I like the fight because it's all up to me, because the can looks great. The sign is awesome. We have a great partner to bring out new flavors, and I'm able to sample the flavors for as long as I want until I say, yeah, this is good enough. So it's all on me and not us if this succeeds or not. And that's a good spot to be in. Like, you should always try to be in the spot where if you failed, it was because of yourself. It was not because of someone blocking you or someone poisoning your drink or doing something. And finally, now with the support I have with my team and the people I work with, I can honestly say that it's all up to me whether this succeeds or not. Like, the way I develop this and bring it forward with our team, because like, they're fantastic. That would otherwise have been like a huge hurdle for me.
How do you get your hands on one of these drinks?
Well, it's growing every day. So we're at like 300 to 400 stores at the moment, all types of like small stores and everything. And now we're moving into retail with local Swedish grocery stores. But you can also go to pixelpowerup.se if you just want to check out our website. And there you can also order the drinks if you want to buy it online. So Pixel Power Up, and that's PXL powerup.se. And the website is in English. So
does it ship outside of Sweden as well if someone wants to buy it, or not yet?
Not yet. Okay. But we do have, I don't know when this podcast is going to be released.
In 2 weeks from when we talk.
Okay, well, that's great. We're going to have like a partner called Snackje. It's a weird thing to pronounce. It's SNACK and then JE. They're an online distributor of drinks and candy and stuff like that. And they have really good shipping solutions. So that doesn't matter where in the world you live, they have like, it's not drop shipping, but it's they're able to get pretty much anything to you. So we're going to be available there. It's just a small partner there. This is not like our legit business step. They just happen to purchase from one of our retailers, and mainly now it's just mainly Sweden, but there are ways of getting a hold of it if you're interested.
Awesome. And maybe if people want to get in contact with you, what's your social media names?
Well, you should. I run the social media of Pixel. So if you want to talk to me, feel free to write to us on Pixel Power Up, just one handle on Instagram. So PXL Power Up. You'll find us there. And I'm running the social media. So if you write there, then I'm going to see it. I can get back to you.
Awesome. The last question that I ask everyone is, if you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think that I should talk to?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would get either Andreas or Alex, who run Tyngre. Alex Danielsson or Andreas Ganse. I mean, they've helped me so much. We've helped each other. And I admire the journey they've done, like from these humble two guys into this fucking powerhouse, like a local powerhouse in Sweden, from everything from community to supplements to product. So either one of those guys would be great.
Thanks, Mikael.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.